So thank you guys so much for coming in. My name is McCall Lehman. I am the Global Competitive, or goodness gracious, it's been a long week and it's only Wednesday. I am the Global Program Manager for Competitive Strategy here at SUSE. So really what my main focus this year and last year has been on multi-Linux support and how we can leverage this tool to help you as our customers, and if you are a partner, to help your customers with their heterogeneous Linux environments. So this is the agenda. I'm seeing some new faces, so I'm very relieved for that because I was going through my slides and I was like, I've kind of said all of this stuff like twice now, so it looks like we're getting some fresh ears. I'm very excited about that. So obviously, welcome and introduction. We're going to discuss the challenges of a multi-Linux environment, which you guys definitely are already aware of, I'm very sure. What SUSE Multi-Linux support is, what the benefits are, and then what successes we've had in the market and kind of how that can maybe be applied to your environment as well. So welcome. This is the first point on the agenda. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys for coming in here. So we're always, I think I need to turn this down maybe. I'm getting some feedback. But so we've all are obviously here at SUSECon. So we all know about SUSE, but I really like to show this slide because, like I said, it really pulls out some fun little, like, fast and furious facts that we can share. So obviously founded in 1992, we've been around for a minute and a half. We are headquartered out of Luxembourg, and we are actually in over 90% of the world's leading customers, or excuse me, leading companies. So SUSE is everywhere, whether it's in a general Linux form, Rancher, or SLES for SAP, which is really one of our #1 strong suits. Into the discussion around our security certifications. You can see over on that side, we have the common criteria and SLSA certifications that we keep up to date as well. So if you guys haven't heard enough about this here at SUSECon, I do want to really kind of reiterate SUSE's stance on choice and how we feel about technology in general. So we recognize that nobody has just one Linux. We're very aware of that fact, right? You've got tons and tons of options. But that doesn't mean that they should be so disparate. We want to be able to bring them all together so that you guys can clearly, cleanly manage and support your Linux operating system. When it comes to cloud native, we've literally done the same. With Rancher, you can manage your entire Kubernetes environment. With the Edge, we've formulated our product so that you can deploy when and wherever you want to. And with AI, we're not actually creating AI anything, right? We've just built out this platform that you can determine exactly which pieces you want to plug in to create whatever AI tool you need to for your business. Okay, so what are the challenges of multi-Linux environments? Let's hope that this next one brings something up. It does, we're good, okay. So first and foremost, one of the things that we see is vendor lock-in. So what does that mean? Well, a lot of times with software companies specifically, we'll get you in one piece and then we continue to grow our stack in your environment. Every software company tries to do this, right? We're always trying to kind of grab hold of you and we don't want you to leave. It's the stickiness that we've always, the boogeyman that is Microsoft. We've always heard that story. Once you've got Office, you can't get rid of Office, whether that's for good or bad or for indifferent. And so we've seen it all throughout the industry. But every once in a while, we get these really awesome, terrifying reminders as to why a single vendor is not a good idea. And over the past few years, we've seen quite a few of them, right? So the issue with CrowdStrike, the blue screen of death that everyone was hit with, literally everyone was hit with, even Microsoft and Azure, because they were leveraging CrowdStrike within their own environment. And this is literally due to the fact that it was just fully stacked in. So you had a problem with CrowdStrike, but if you were also an Azure user, you were having issues with that. It really bled out everywhere. We saw huge issues with our, at least in North America, with our flights. They were grounded for a whole day. I don't know if that's ever happened. Well, we know it's happened, but for a technical reason. We've also seen it with AWS, right? If you were fully invested into that hyperscaler, a few years ago, they had an outage that lasted, I think, it was a little bit over an hour, which for some not a big deal. For others, they lost millions upon millions of dollars in that hour. So the reality is that it's important for us to have these heterogeneous environments. We need to make sure that we are diversified. We have to plan for these failovers. We have to have built out this ability to move everything from one side to another to another. So the key really is that we need to work on how to avoid this vendor lock-in as much as possible. It's an issue of scope creep, right? You start off, everything is heterogeneous, and the next thing you know, 5 years down the line, all of a sudden you're all in on, Red Hat and IBM. So another challenge that we want to talk about is the security risks from a multi-Linux, or excuse me, a heterogeneous environment. I think it says multi-Linux, but this goes for heterogeneous as well. Again, it's about that management piece, not being able to see where everything is, not understanding what's out of date, where the upgrades are or where they haven't gone yet, and being out of compliance in one area but being up in compliance everywhere else. It's really difficult to be able to track all of that. We do it every single day. It takes a lot of resources, right? It takes a lot of time. We take our time out of our day to find the right tools to do all of the tracking and then to manage those upgrades and how we are going to run our complete environment. So again, these are risks that we face or challenges that we face of a multi-Linux or a heterogeneous environment. And then operational complexity. I think we've kind of already alluded to this, right? It takes a lot of time, resources. You have teams of people that are working on one piece of your infrastructure when, quite frankly, they could be working on strategic initiatives for your company. I think that's one of the biggest things that we've all faced is we have plans that we want to do. We have things that we want to create, but we can't because we've got these day-to-day activities that we absolutely have to make sure we're keeping up to date on. Does this ring true for you guys? Is it something that you experience? I've got a couple of heads nodding. I'm not totally off base here. We're good. Thumbs up. Somebody? Come on. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. We're in person, guys. We can have reactions now. Okay, so SUSE Multi-Linux support. We talked about it today at the keynote. Rick Spencer, who's the head of our business critical Linux, gave a really nice overview of the changes that are coming this year, but we didn't really give a full overview as to exactly what multi-Linux support is. So for the uninformed, this is a tool that we've actually had since 2006. It was called expanded support back then. It was literally created, I heard this story yesterday from the SAP guy, so take this with a grain of salt because they want to claim that they were the reason that this was created, so we'll tell the story, but who knows. But SUSE wanted to start moving over customers who were on RHEL over to SLES for SAP. And in order to do that, to bridge that gap, we had to do something so that the RHEL customers would be supported during that transition. We worked with SAP. We created the ability to support and manage the RHEL environments. SAP said, we'll give you 6 months. And in that time, the customer needs to have migrated over from RHEL to SLES for SAP. So thus, expanded support was born. And we've since been iterating it, working on it. We've continued to keep up with it for almost 20 years now, right? It's 2025, so we're at 19 years this year. So now what we've done is we've rebranded it, no longer called expanded support, now called multi-Linux support. And we've also packaged it together with a couple of our other tools to help you guys with that complexity of your multi-Linux environment. Now remember, SUSE is all about choice. So both of these tools are super great. Multi-Linux Manager and Multi-Linux Support are very good at interoperability. So what they're doing is they are working with your environment as you have it set up to date. There's no migration required for this. With Multi-Linux Support, it is not a new Linux distribution. It is just a support offering. So we are able to support RHEL 7, 8, and 9. And if you ask our engineering team on a good day, 5 and 6 as well. But we are able to fully support this. With RHEL 7 having gone end of maintenance last year, we've incorporated our long-term support into the package, so that's not an additional cost. It's all included in the promotional pricing that we've put together. And for those of you and or your customers that still have CentOS 7 in their environment, We know they exist. Multi-Linux support can also support CentOS 7 as well. And we were actually expanding that lifecycle all the way until 2028 for CentOS 7 specifically. And again, that's really just because SUSE is really, we love our customers, right? We love to hear from you guys. We want to know what your workloads are. We want to help you guys be successful. And when it comes to CentOS 7, we recognize that there's a lot of applications and workloads that simply cannot be moved. And if they can, it's going to take years to figure out exactly how to move it. We all know tech debt. We've all had those situations where some genius built this amazing application that is used throughout the entire company, and then they retired, and they moved to the mountains, and they don't have access to cell phone or internet, and now we don't know what to do with this amazing application that needs to be updated, that needs to be safe and secure. And so that's really where multi-Linux support comes in and can help with those types of situations as well. I have to look to make sure I said everything. Fully compatible, zero disruption, that's a pretty good one. That goes into the no migration, LTSS. Okay, I think we're good. So again, just to reiterate, this is not a new Linux distribution. We are not trying to sell this as a subscription service for our distribution. This is just support. So you can think about it at a very simplistic level, that all it is essentially changing your cell phone provider, but getting to keep your cell phone number. It is still a RHEL machine. We are not changing that aspect of the OS. What we've done is we've partnered with OEL, CIQ to create OpenElla. I highly recommend that you Google it just to kind of see what the directive and the plan is for that. But essentially, we came together when Red Hat came out, or IBM came out last year and said that they wanted to pull the Red Hat code behind a paywall. We said, not on our watch. We love open source so much, we have to keep this open. We're actually good, we have to keep it open so much, we're working with our competition to do so for you. It is backwards binary compatible, so every single upgrade, every patch that we push out is rigorously tested against the kernel to make sure that it will continue to work. The bits and bytes do work. Again, instead of having to call 1-800-RHEL, you are now calling 1-800-SUSE for all of your support. The idea is to help you guys streamline that complexity. So instead of having to worry about what OS is this application running on, you just call the same number for any and every single case that pops up in your environments. There's a lot of words on that one too. I gotta make sure that we're good. Okay. And I guess if it wasn't clear, we are definitely continuing to push out upgrades, updates, and patches for these RHEL systems. Essentially, our release structure does mirror that of Red Hat's, so we are in line and lock in step with them. Anytime anything pops up, we're pushing out the same thing. Just backwards binary compatible and doesn't have any Red Hat trademark on it. So this is what the product structure looks like, or what the promotional offering looks like, excuse me. So it does come in 4 tiers. Light and basic are specifically for CentOS. You can see closer to the bottom it says long life updates for CentOS. That does imply it doesn't include for RHEL. The first tier is just updates and patching. And that's because we recognize CentOS customers were not paying for anything up until recently. So we needed to make sure that it was something that made sense for those users, kind of meet them where they're at. However, the customers that know that they need to migrate and are trying to work on that plan, Basic is a really great option. Besides the fact that it includes Manager, it also has standard support, so you can actually call 1-800-SUSE for your CentOS environment while you're figuring out what you're gonna do with it. Professional enterprise tier are geared specifically towards RHEL, so remember that's 7, 8, and 9. We do have future plans for 10. And as Rick announced earlier, it was previously the most recent minor release. So it was like 7.9, 8.9, and 9. Stefan, do you know? It's 9.4? Okay. But now we're opening it up. So it's going to be alternate minor versions. So I believe 7.8, 8.8, and then 9.5 and 6 are all planned to be supported by SUSE as well. The enterprise tier is for those customers that know for sure that they want to move away from SUSE, they want to move away from Red Hat into SUSE. So we've actually incorporated SLES licenses into that offering. So again, back to that original idea that we had with SAP, we're giving these customers 3 years of support, and they have that ability to plan and test and slowly migrate over to SLES if that is what they wish. Again, migration is not a requirement for multi-Linux support. We have customers that have been leveraging this tool for over 10 years, and they have no plans on changing. Man, I really need to fix this slide. I keep copying and pasting it over to like every single presentation, and just wait for it. No, that heart's just gonna sit there for a minute. So what are the benefits to multi-Linux support? I think that I've pretty much covered it, but just to kind of make it very easy and straightforward, the cost reduction and increased flexibility. So cost and the pricing is something that we haven't really spoken about, but like I said, I'm the Global Program Manager for Competitive Strategy, and our goal is to start to take more of the paid-for Linux market share. So with that, that means that we have to be very aggressive and very competitive in this space. And so that is one of the things that we are promising our customers, is that we will save you money. So we will find you budget from your operating system. Doesn't matter what you're paying for Red Hat today, we will figure out a way to save you up to 50%. Improve security, obviously making sure that you're continuously getting those patches and upgrades, leveraging Multi-Linux Manager so that you can get all of your 16 plus different Linux distributions into that single pane of glass. So with Multi-Linux Manager, it can manage, like I said, up to 16 different distros, and it's really cool because it shows you exactly what's going on in your environment, what's out of compliance, what is perfectly in compliance, where things are broken, all of that fun stuff. So if you haven't seen a demo of Multi-Linux Manager, I highly recommend that you go into the main room and check it out, because it's actually really cool, and it makes it even cooler that it's packaged with multi-Linux support as well. Manager is kind of the easy way to make the conversion. So remember, again, we're not doing a migration. All we're doing is taking the repos, or the hosts, and we're pointing them away from the Red Hat repos and towards the SUSE ones. And that can all be managed by Manager. And then my favorite, unlocking modernization. Looks terrible on the slide, it's way too pink. But the whole goal is, again, we know that you guys have strategic initiatives. That's the world that we live in, and we're all dealing with budget constraints. So we can actually help you with your modernization initiatives by finding that budget from probably the least likely space that anyone was going to expect, your operating system. So what does success look like, or what has it looked like? Well, on day one, we heard Deutsche Bank come up on stage and talk about their experience with multi-Linux support. This was actually a really awesome deal that we were able to close last year. Their leadership says that when they switched over, the best thing ever happened. Nothing. So they literally made the switch, put all in on multi-Linux support, and they continued to go up and running, no issues, nothing broke. Everyone was very happy. Ultimately, what they were doing is they were looking for a chance to save money. They wanted to figure out how they could cut costs, and so they worked with SUSE to figure out exactly what that looked like. With Deutsche Bank, it's actually a very mixed environment. We've got older versions of RHEL and a couple of other distributions that we are actually supporting for them as well, which is another key thing that I love about SUSE, is that we are willing to customize anything for anyone for the right price. We've also seen some success in the telco area, and this is actually a growing market for us right now, but recently with a telco company out of EMEA, they had a merger and acquisition. So they were pulling together two separate IT departments into one, and we all know that is everyone's worst nightmare and fully chaotic. And so in order to streamline and decrease their complexity, they chose to go with SUSE for a multi-Linux manager to make sure they could manage everything on that single pane of glass, and multi-Linux support, so that they knew they just had one number to call for all of their enterprise Linux distributions, and didn't have to search and hunt to figure out what the new company's OS was for this application or for that workload. We've also seen success in cosmetics. This was actually a customer that wanted to move away from IBM. They're making some very large strategic changes within their environment, and this was one of the easiest ways that they were able to start that journey for themselves with multi-Linux support. So now instead of paying Red Hat, they're paying us. We've also seen it in technology hardware. So we have an embedded customer who they're relatively large, and they actually had a very bizarre version of CentOS 7 embedded in their products. It was very unique. And so they actually worked with SUSE, and we created a customized option for them that was a change of multi-Linux support. So now they are able to continue on with their weird kernel of CentOS and get support and upgrades from SUSE. And I mean, as we all know, when it comes to an embedded environment, ripping and replacing of the OS is the last thing that you want to have to worry about. So we've agreed to continue to support their environment for them. Then we've got manufacturing. This is a relatively recent case study that we published called WEG. They're based out of Latin America. And honestly, this one's really perfect because what they were trying to do was work with Rancher. They wanted Rancher Prime, they wanted to implement it into their environment, but they didn't have the budget for it. And the SUSE team at that time said, oh, we can actually help you find that budget. And so we were able to go in and work with them and support their OS while finding the budget for them to also go forward with their cloud native plan with Rancher Prime, And then transportation. LOT, Polish Airlines, they are actually one of our longest standing MLS customers. I think this original case study was from back in like the mid-2000s. Same situation. They had some applications that were running on older versions of RHEL and CentOS. They needed to continue to be supported. So they've been with us and they continue to be with us for that environment. So, final thoughts. The risks and the challenges of multi-Linux environments, as we discussed, vendor lock-in, security risks, and the complexity of your environment. SUSE is able to solve or help you solve those challenges with multi-Linux support. The business benefits are cost savings, operational efficiency, security and compliance, and modernization enablement. So that's it. That's all I have. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, guys.